The rented space. My wife and I have been together 7 years, married for 5. We met at the office she still works at. Things have been great. She is like my one true love and we have a kid together. I've always had 100% trust in her and I know she is hotter than me and I'm probably punching above my weight, but she's always said she doesn't notice when guys stare at her. We've had a few bumps in the road, but it's been mostly great. But I found out recently that she lied about how many guys she had been with before me, and it's like made me completely rethink everything she said that I've believed. Why did she feel the need to lie about that? And if she lied about that, what else has she lied about? There is stuff she told me when we met that I just took for granted because I trusted her. But thinking back on it now, there is stuff that doesn't make sense. When we met, she was living with her boyfriend, but also seeing a guy at the office behind her boyfriend's back. But she told me that her boyfriend was really controlling and she wanted to leave him but didn't know how, and going with the guy in the office was just a way of having some control over her life, and she had ended things with him and he hadn't taken it very well. Looking back now, these are starting to seem like really big red flags, but at the time I accepted it. But some stuff seems really weird, like if she was going behind her boyfriend's back with this guy in the office, and she would go out for drinks with her boyfriend and people from the office, then why wasn't it more secretive? Everyone knew she was going with that guy. Why did they not keep it more hidden? There are loads of other things that are worrying me now. But I guess I want to know if you think I'm right to be worried, or is the lying about how many guys she'd been with before me is a normal thing to do and I'm exaggerating the issue. I heard that most women lie about it, so maybe it's just that. She told me she'd been with 12 guys before me. But during our relationship she mentioned other guys and it felt like she'd mentioned a lot, so I started keeping track. She's mentioned over 20 different guys, and that doesn't include the ones she mentioned before I started keeping track. So, I know she is lying about it. The thing is, makes me question a lot of things, including if she has been faithful to me. My wife has admitted to me on 5 separate occasions that she has kissed another guy. One was a guy at her office, another was a guy she met online, and there were some other guys. Looking back, it sounds really bad, but at the time she made me feel like it was my fault for not giving her enough attention and being distant. And I guess I bought it really. And I felt good that she had admitted it to me straight away and unprompted, and I believed her that she felt bad and was sorry. Now I'm looking back on that and not knowing what to think, and not knowing if it was just a kiss that happened, since I know she has lied about other stuff. She is still my wife, and at the time I felt like she was being honest about her mistakes, and each incident was at least a year apart. I don't remember exactly, but I think maybe 1 or 2 happened before we were married and the others happened afterwards. When you say she gaslighted me, you mean because she made it seem like it was my fault, or because it was more than kissing but she just said kissing to downplay it? We already have a child. People do make mistakes though, and I have always tried to give her the benefit of the doubt. And she came forward and told me, so that told me that she regretted it and want to move past it. The fact I know she no lies about stuff makes me wonder, but I can't work out why she would own up to kissing them if she is a serial cheater. At the time I thought that she was choose me over 2 other guys. So, it made me feel really confident, you know. I could never understand why she was seeing the other guy. He was an ugly, little guy from the mail room. He seemed like the last guy in the office that she would go with. Seems like the last guy in the office she would sleep with because he was the last guys in the office that she slept with. Maybe she'd slept with a lot of guys in the office and he was just the current one she was on. It sounds like paranoia, and maybe it is, but there are some other weird things that don't make sense that point in that direction too. The only thing I could think of was that maybe she did more than kissing, but the guy felt guilty afterwards and told her she had to be honest and come clean with me, or he would tell me, maybe. And so, she said the least that she thought she could get away with. But then how many guys would feel guilty about going with a married woman? I feel like it would be a small percentage. Again, she is still my wife, and I don't actually know anything for certain, except that she lied about her body count. So further as in she had slept with them. That's obviously what I'm worried about, but I don't want to jump to conclusions. What I'm worried about, only knowing the tip of the iceberg. If she has done more than kissing and she has slept with another guy, then I don't see how it can only be just one guy. Because if she admitted to kissing 5 guys, and the kissing is actually bonding, then she cheated on me with at least 5 guys. And if she cheated, then why did she admit to kissing? Was she forced into it by the guilty guys she cheated with, including a guy in her office that maybe knew me from then I worked there? But there is no way the majority of men would feel guilty in that way. So how many would? 10%? 5%? If 5% of men would force her to come clean, and she told me about 5 guys, then that would mean she actually cheated on me with like 100 guys, and I only know about 5 of them. But that's crazy, right? But realistically, how many men would force her to tell me? As you far see, I'm going down a bad rabbit hole. And all this is not helped by my conspiracy theory that she'd been with more guys in the office than I knew about. Before I got with her, and maybe after too. We've always used protection except when we were trying to get pregnant. I appreciate your concern, but I'm pretty sure my kid is mine. I did ask for details about the kissing, but she told me it didn't matter and she didn't want to give me details that I would just obsess over. She didn't tell me who in her office she kissed because she didn't want me to get upset if he ever came up in conversation about her work. They work in the same office, or they did at the time it happened. I don't know how closely they worked together because she wouldn't tell me who it was. She said I just had to trust her. Famous last words. But I could really expect him or her to change where they work because of it. What do you mean by a good possibility? It's a lot more. What is more than cheating? I don't actually know anything different I can point to though. So, what do I say? I have a problem with the 5 guys you said you kissed. She will say, why are you bringing this up now? And you said you had forgiven me back then. What's changed? What do I say? Some guys on the internet think you are cheating on me. That will definitely make me look like a chump. As I explained though, I think I've had rose-tinted glasses on this whole time and I feel like I've just taken them off. I believe her that she was sorry and knew straight away it was a mistake. And I believe that it was partially my fault for not showing her enough attention. Might sound crazy now, but it made sense at the time. You think she said cheating, but actually she slept with them. Why did she admit to kissing them then? I didn't know about it. There was no reason for her to come forward. People seem to think she is the kind of woman that can't help herself but cheat and doesn't care about me. If that is the case, why did she admit to kissing? I'm not trying to be funny, I'm genuinely trying to work it out. I agree that given everything, I think it might be the case that she did more than kiss them, and if she slept with them, all of them, then I don't understand why she would admit to kissing, but some guy was forcing her to come clean. She has never said I love you but I'm not in love with you. Possibly because she did much more and admitted to a lesser crime in case the other man ratted on her. That's exactly what I'm saying too. The only thing that makes sense is that he forced her to come clean, and she did, but only came clean to cheating, but could go back to him and say I told him with a straight face. That's the only thing that makes sense. But that means the 5 I know about are only the 5 where the guys felt guilty, and that seems like it would only be a fraction. I'm just trying to get a handle on how big this iceberg is, if I can only see the tip. Because it seems like, either I'm paranoid and making a big deal out of nothing, which I think is still possible, or she's cheated on me with anywhere between dozen and 100 guys and I only know about 5 times because the guy felt guilty. Not a great place to be in. But until I have more proof, I've already forgiven her for the kissing of the 5 guys, so I need to know more before I say anything. I mean, if I'm honest, there are a bunch of other weird things that don't make sense and red flags, but people all already think I'm an idiot, so that would just tip it over the edge. When you are really into someone, it can blind you to the truth. And my wife has really big boobs, and that was definitely something that I was caught in a tractor beam a little bit when we met. She was the hottest woman in the office, by far, and I couldn't believe she was talking to me and seemed to be interested in me. I knew she had a boyfriend and there was this other guy in the office that she may or may not have broken up with, but I was very keen to sleep with her and all those just seemed like obstacle to overcome. And then I got a sob story from her really, and I just wanted to rescue her from what seemed like a bad situation. And I felt like she was choosing me over 2 other guys, and that felt good. The red flags, well, more weird things that didn't make much sense. She knew a lot of the gossip in the office and she would tell me some gossip and rumor and stuff and who was sleeping with who and things. But a lot of it didn't make much sense, but I just ignored that feeling. One I remember specifically was she said that this female manager and a male upper manager, who were both married, were hooking up, and one time she went into his office, went under the desk and was giving him a blowjob under the desk, when another manager came in and she had to keep still under the desk until he left. Okay, dirty bit of gossip. Except the woman that she said did this made no sense. She was a middle-aged, straight-laced, married woman. I could see the male manager doing that, but not the female manager really. It didn't make much sense. A lot of the gossip involved this female investigator, who she made out to be really slutty. According to her, she was shagging most of the managers in the office and would go home with guys when they went out drinking after work. She said she that once, after a night out, picked up a homeless man that was begging on the street, took him home, gave him a shower, had slept with him and then sent him on his way. Pretty wild and disgusting stuff. The woman who was going all this stuff was, not meaning to be judgmental, just trying to paint a picture, an ugly, fat, middle-aged woman. Not that she couldn't have been really slutty, but I don't think that many men would have wanted to have slept with her, even if she put it on a plate. Also, my wife, my girlfriend at the time, and her, hated each other. Which makes me think, how did she find out this information? Why would she have told anyone this? None of it makes sense. Of course, the worrying thing is what if all those stories weren't about those other women, they were actually about stuff she'd done. Which fits with what I was saying about the male guy being the last guy she'd go with in the office because she had actually been with everyone else. I really don't want to believe this, because if she did all the things that she attributed to that woman, well, that is messed up. But now the rose-tinted glasses are off, I'm questioning everything. She befriended a homeless man when we had been living together a year or so. Took pity on him, took him to a cafe and bought him food and drink. And I felt weird about, but she made it seem like she was doing a nice thing. Other weird stuff happened with him, but that's probably enough for now. She always has her phone with her and it's locked. I'm not okay with the fact she kissed those guys. It was a big deal, it hurt, and I told her it was not okay. I get that it was technically cheating. Clearly you all see it as a complete deal breaker. I hated it, but part of my thought, well, at least she didn't sleep with them. At least she stopped it there and it didn't go any further. And that is what she told me, that she was feeling unloved and like I was ignoring her and focusing on work. And someone paid her attention and seemed nice and kissed her and she didn't pull away as quickly as she should have. And she felt awful about it and no, she had to immediately tell me. That's how she pitched it to me. And I know that guys much pay her attention and hit on her a lot. And I could see one of them trying to steal a kiss and her not reacting quickly enough and then feeling guilty. Now, looking back and with everything you've said, I see that her version of events is probably unlikely, and there is a good chance that she did actually sleep with those 5 guys, and maybe more, and potentially a lot more. But none of that was in my head at the time. I try to give people, and her especially, the benefit of the doubt. She's not always had the best time of it in her life, and she's had some really dirty boyfriends in the past, if what she said can be believed, and I wanted to show her support and love and to forgive difficult situations that she got herself in. Again, I realize now that was probably not true, but I didn't know that at the time. The sort of red pill nonsense I was worried about. Women aren't strange creatures that somehow work differently. They are people. Some people cheat, some people don't. My wife, whether she cheated or not, is not indicative of all women. I know she lied about how many guys she had been with. I counted over 20 different guys that she mentioned, and that doesn't include the guys she mentioned before I started keeping track. So, I would guess at least 30 guys that she has mentioned during the course of our relationship. So, I guess that is her number multiplied by 3. However, none of the guys she mentioned were guys at the office, so if I'm right that she'd been with more guys at the office than she admitted to, then that would increase that number, potentially by a lot. It makes sense that she wouldn't want to mention guys in the office, in case I got jealous of them or asked more questions. One specific one I remember was she said a female manager and a male upper manager were hooking up, and she would go into his office and go under his desk and suck him off. And one time another manager came in, and she had to stay under the desk and be quiet until he left. The problem is that the woman she said did this was a middle-aged, straight-laced, married woman, and it just made no sense that she would be like that, at all. To be honest, getting down on her hands and knees under a desk seemed a bit past her. I would totally believe that the male manager would do that, but not her. Also, where did she hear this from? The women, they didn't know each other well enough. The guy, he wouldn't want it known he was having an affair. None of it makes sense. But if it was her, it makes total sense. She does like giving blowjobs. That is totally something she would do, and that explains why she knew about it. So now I have to add that upper manager to the list of guys in the office that she probably slept with, or at least sucked off. He was older, probably in his 50s, married, mostly gray, overweight, but tall, gruff, and imposing. While I hate to admit it, her going with him makes a lot more sense than the mailroom guy. The weird stuff with the homeless man was that she would meet up with every week to buy him some food and check he was okay. I was wary of him, but he did genuinely seem like a nice guy who was just down on his luck, and I didn't want to judge him just because he was homeless. He was from Newcastle, the same town in the north of England that my wife is from, and she said that he reminds her of her brother and so felt protective of him. So, she met up with him after work one day a week in the cafe just up the road, but she finished work earlier than I did, so they would have been in the cafe for about an hour before I got there. We ended up giving him some money so that he could buy some magazine that he could sell to earn more money. We didn't see him for a few weeks after that, so it seemed like he might have fallen off the wagon. A few months later he turned up again. She said she ran into him and she started meeting up again with him. We ended up giving him some more money and then he disappeared and we never saw him again. The really weird thing was that one time he turns up outside our flat randomly. He was being really weird and my wife was being really weird, and he wanted to come in but I said no, he couldn't come in and he had to leave. I assumed at the time she was being weird because she knew he was wrong that he had come to our flat, and he felt guilty because she was the one that befriended him. But now, thinking back on it, I don't know. Also, I only realized this when I thought back on it recently, but who did he know where we lived? I told her not to tell him where we lived, in case he robbed us. We lived on the same road as the cafe, so maybe he saw us going into the flat, but I don't know. At the time I thought it was just an example of her being too trusting and seeing the good in people when she should be more wary. But thinking back, given the story about the woman in the office that apparently took a homeless guy home, and it not making sense how my wife would know that, it does seem an odd coincidence. She is still working at that same office, yes. Has she been through all the men at least once? I don't know, that's what I'm trying to work out, but I feel like all I have to go on at the moment is weird things that don't make sense the way she told but do make sense if she has slept with most of the guys in the office. Is that evidence? Not really. Does it make me worried? Yeah. Do I take your comment to mean that you also think that seemed like the most likely situation? If you are saying maybe he has a big D, well, she told me he didn't, but then I guess she would say that. But also, he definitely didn't have big D energy, BDE, you know. But also, he wasn't a confident guy, and as I said, he wasn't very attractive. So if he did have a big D, how would she have known, unless she was already sleeping with him? If she only told me about kissing because some guy felt guilty and made her do it, it seems like guys that would do that aren't common, which means if there are 5 that did, there are a lot more that didn't. I mean, it's kind of scary. I feel that it's either all paranoia and I'm wrong about it all, or she has cheated and has cheated a lot. I feel like there is no middle ground. Nothing else makes sense. I'm not worried about my kid being mine, because he looks like me and looks like I did when I was a kid. If all of those bit of gossip and stories were actually things that she did, then that's really bad. According to her rumors, basically everyone was shagging everyone else, so if they were all actually about her, then she was shagging the majority of the guys in the office. I cling on to the hope that maybe that was all before she met me and was in the past, and she was embarrassed to admit it. I don't know that any of it happened after we got together. I am definitely dwelling on it more than I should do. But I do think it's partially relevant if that number is way larger than I even know, and it includes a lot of guys from her office, because she still works in that office, and I only worked there for a few months, so it's entirely possible that patterns and arrangements and relationships that existed prior to me arriving could continue after I've left. At the moment, my head is a bit of a mess and I don't really know what to think. I don't know if I could look past this all, but then also I don't know for certain this all actually did happen. I feel like I would need her to be honest with me about everything if there was a chance to move past it. But then also I don't know if I actually want to know it all. It might be a lot. And how will I know if she is actually being honest with me, or if there is still more I don't know about? What if she continues to trickle truth and I get some stuff, like maybe she admits that yes, she has slept with some guys in her office, but that they don't work there anymore. But then we go to her office Christmas party and someone in her office tells me she has shagged her way through all of them. Another red flag maybe. She never wants us to go to her office Christmas party, so we never do. I noticed a section in this forum called Coping with Infidelity, so maybe I'll give that a read. While moving past any of this, if true, seems like it's impossible at the moment. So does confronting it and dealing with the consequences like divorce. So, I don't know. We don't talk about past physical life often, but things come up in conversation. Like, oh, I was with a guy that worked in Nando. My ex had that car. I haven't been here since I was with Steve. Some of the information could be doubled up, like she was with a guy called Steve that had that car, but I accounted for that. Some stuff would contradict itself. So, taking that into consideration, at a conservative estimate, she'd been with at least 30 guys before me, not 12 like she said. It's that helpful to say she's not marriage material. If you ask me, I'm already married to her. It's a bit late for that. I obviously missed a lot of red flags, and knowing that she lied about how many guys she'd been with has only become obvious recently, and I'm trying to deal with this right now. I'm explaining what I'm going through and you all seem to be annoyed that I dated her in the first place. Well, that ship has sailed and I am where I am, and I need to work out what to do about it. Telling me I need to go back in time 7 years and walk away isn't very helpful. Is kissing cheating? Yes, but there are levels of cheating, and obviously kissing isn't as bad as bonding. Kissing can be intimate, obviously, but just saying kissing doesn't really give a lot of details. Maybe it was a very brief lapse where he dived in to kiss her, and she was caught off guard and took a second to work out what was going on and disengage. But because that means she technically kissed the guy, that she felt guilty and needed to tell me. For what it's worth, this is sort of how she framed the kissing at the time. She framed it like it was a small, simple mistake, but there would have to be build-up. Where did she meet them? Well, one guy was a guy from work, one guy was a guy she first said she met online. Then she said that they had mutual friends in common and had met up after work. The other guys, she didn't tell me who they were. She said she didn't want me to obsess over things. Yeah, I know, I wasn't happy about it. But part of it was that I'd already forgiven her in the past, and so it became harder to completely kick off about this time. As for when, she has said she needed to work late in the past, and there have been works drinks and people's birthdays, and leaving drinks, and she sometimes goes out drinking with friends, so I guess any of those could have been opportunities for stuff to have happened. Number 1 was the guy at work. I asked for name and details and got no name but some details. Number 2 was guy she met online, which then got clarified to a guy that was a friend of a friend that happened to be in town. I asked for details and she gave me a first name only and said she had blocked him on all her accounts. Number 3 was someone connected to someone at work on a works drink, like a friend of a colleague, something like that. Number 4, she said it didn't matter who it was, but I had been neglecting her and he had felt low and he showed her attention and he took advantage of the situation. Number 5 was a guy she knew from her hometown when she was back visiting family. I agree that my wife kissing other men during our relationship was massive betrayal, and I felt hurt and upset at the time. But at the time I accepted her version of events and partially blamed myself because she managed to convince me that I had neglected her and that was the reason it happened. I now see that she completely gaslit me, and there is every possibility she was trickle-truth me. It's unclear why she would voluntarily admit to this if it was hiding something bigger, but a number of theories have been suggested here. Given that, either what happened was broadly in line with what she said and she did only kiss them, and she felt guilty and had to come clean. Or, she was trickle-truthing me. She said she only kissed them, but she actually slept with those 5 guys and those were just the ones that she was forced to admit to me, for some reason. There are more, potentially a lot more, that I don't know about. If the first option is true, then, while what she did was horrible, I felt with the pain and hurt at the time, and I'm not going to blow up my marriage for something that we'd already dealt with and moved past. You can think what you want about me for that, but we all have our tolerances for dealing with the messiness of relationships. Regarding her office, the past, and us getting together, I'm pretty certain she lied about how many guys she had slept with before me, by at least a factor of 3x, and I suspect a lot more. It sucks that she lied, and it is what kicked off all my doubts, but it's common for women to lie about their body counts, and I can understand her being worried it would have upset me. Because it did. I am concerned that I don't know the actual number, and concerned that maybe she doesn't. Because I only know it's at least 30, I have number upper limit on what the number could actually be. If it's actually 30, it will be able to deal with that, but if it's like 300, that is a different matter. Maybe I should talk to her about this no matter what, but I feel like I would never know if what she was telling me was actually the truth, so why bother? Yes, the fact that when I met her, she was cheating on her boyfriend with at least one guy, and later also with me, was a huge red flag that I missed. There are a number of reasons why I miss it or ignored it, and we have covered a lot of them here. However, I accepted her and her situation at the time, I believed her version of events at the time, and I'm not going to blow up my marriage because of something that she will rightfully say I knew at the time. For what it's worth, I regret mentioning my wife's body. It was stupid and childish of me, and I regret it. Her body isn't the only reason I was attracted to her, it was also her warm personality, her friendliness, and her sense of humor. Given everything I've mentioned, there are many unanswered questions about some of the things she said about her office, regarding all the gossip and rumors. It's a government department, by the way. Maybe it's different in the US, but it's really hard to get fired from a government job in the UK, even if you are bad at your job and even if you are shagging half the department. So, I see only two possibilities. She's telling the truth. There was a lot shagging going on between other people in the office. She found out about these in many different ways, and she told me about them because she likes to gossip. Or, it wasn't old, straight-laced, unassuming women that were, between them, shagging pretty much every guy in the section, if not the building. It was actually her. She'd been making her way around the guys of the building since before I knew her, including the guy in the office who lost her virginity to her. I've just remembered that detail. This means she also has taken homeless guys home, cleaned them up and shagged them, and it seems like she did the same with a homeless guy during our relationship. If the first situation is true, then I don't think I have anything to worry about. If the second is true, then she has basically been playing me for a fool this whole time and has definitely been cheating on me this whole time with probably more men than I can count. This is absolutely the disaster scenario, and I would need to decide how I deal with what's left of our marriage going forward. Obviously, confronting her and divorce is the most obvious option, but it is also what would cause the most disruption to my life and my kid's life. Others have suggested basically just turning a blind eye and pretending I don't know. There isn't part of me that just wants to wave a magic wand and keep my rose-tinted glasses on, but I don't know if I can put the genie back in the bottle. Really don't know about it. So, the two possibilities, as someone above put it, is that I'm either a doormat that has been used by her and cheated on for years, or being paranoid and exaggerating things in my head, and I have a mostly fine marriage, even though my wife been hurtful in the past. I'm an analytical person, so I'm trying to put percentages on how likely I think each of those two possibilities are. Currently I think I'm at doormat, 40%, paranoid, 60%. Last time was maybe 3 years ago. It feels like a long time ago, if that makes a difference. I never noticed any signs, but when she was admitting to them each time, she told me I was distant. I didn't think I was, but I can be quite oblivious sometimes. One thing I was thinking of doing was to try and get in contact with someone from her work, from when I worked there, and try to get some information. But I would need to find someone who remembers me from when I worked there, which was years ago, and only for 6 months. Likes me more than my wife, so they would be honest and not tip her off. Isn't currently sleeping with her. Wasn't cheating on their current wife with her in the past. Is someone whose name I remember and can find contact details for. So far, I'm drawing a blank on who to contact. My comment: brother, she told you she kissed them. You've got to understand that cheaters lie. She didn't kiss one guy, have a conscience, and never do it again. She went back 4 times more for a kiss, with 5 different guys. She is telling you only a smidgen of what she's done. She's a grown woman. Grown women who carry out lies and subterfuge like your wife has for such a long time, divided by they're not kissing. Ignoring the obvious doesn't make the problem go away. I know you're hurting. Pretending you believe her fairy tales isn't going to magically conjure up a faithful wife. A wife who is loyal doesn't kiss 5 different guys. I don't even advise a polygraph. What you know is more than enough to cement in a mind that is capable of seeing reality that your wife isn't marriage material. OP responds: I think I have come round to the inevitability that she has cheated on me. Full cheating, not just a kiss. Even ignoring what I don't know, just from what I do know. I've been thinking about it more, and I'm amazed at the things I just ignored at the time. So, when I met her, she was living with her boyfriend and seeing another guy, from work, behind his back. He was a ugly, creepy guy that worked in the mail room, and he was virgin. He lost his virginity to her. That is how low her bar was. He was a virgin and shy, so it's not like he would have been hitting on her hard and charming her. He probably showed her a bit of shy attention, like being embarrassed to talk to her, or she might have caught him staring at her. And from that small bit of attention, she immediately starts shagging him, even though she already had a boyfriend. If that's how easy paying her attention gets a good time from her, then who am I kidding? I started at the office on the Monday and I slept with her for the first time that Friday, even though she still had a boyfriend, and her second boyfriend, who she had apparently dumped, was still walking around the office giving me the evil eye. If shy attention from a virgin got a good time from her, then surely older guys in the office that are actually hitting on her are going to have no problem. It explains why, despite being easily the hottest woman in the office, I didn't really see any guys hitting on her or trying to start a relationship with her, except for the virgin. Because they had all already had her, and they knew everyone else had too, and so a relationship with her was a bad idea. Then stupid me comes along, not knowing any of that, and starts dating her. Still don't know why no one thought to tell me. Sure, all of that was before our relationship, but all of that was while she had a boyfriend. And the bar to her cheating was so low that it's tough not to draw the conclusion that any guy that showed her attention would have found it easy to sleep with her. I'm sure a bunch of you are screaming at me that you told me all this, but I really didn't want to believe it, and I think I need to come to it in my own time. As for what I'm going to do and how I'm going to approach this, I don't know. I need time to think. Well, she told me she had ended things with the office dweeb, and he sure looked annoyed, so I'm guessing she had. I had assumed she meant recently, but before I'd arrived on the scene, but now I'm not sure. With that nitpick aside, yes, she was hooking up with me, while presumably still sleeping with her boyfriend. It took a while before we could arrange for her to leave him, and we moved in together. Maybe she wanted to be sure to properly break in every new guy at work. The dweeb in the mail room was just one she hadn't gotten around to. I mean, I've got to assume that now, right? Over and above the guys in the office when we met, how many more guys have started at the office since I transferred to a new office 6 months after we met? It's amazing the range of suggestions I've had on this thread. From you should have been serving her divorce papers literally the day after she told you she kissed a guy, to well, if you are getting a good time, does it matter? As for STD, we use protection and I will get a test, but I don't think I have anything. I'm still a bit shell-shocked. I sort of can't reconcile the woman I love with what I'm pretty sure to be true. But there are so many things that are hard to argue against. However, the thought of divorce and custody battles is pretty horrible too. I did more digging and found more circumstantial but worrying evidence. Had some archives of our texts to each other back in the early days, and so many of them were her asking when I'd be home or telling me she was working late. And times when I call her and text her when she was at work and she didn't answer. There was other stuff I'd forgotten too, but I don't want to say, because you will all call me a bloody idiot. That said, my anger has gone down and confronting her just seems like something that will blow everything up. I'm working on our intimacy and trying to feel more connected to her. For now, I feel like I'm going to have to push my hurt and jealousy to one side. She was cheating on her boyfriend at the time with me, and before me, with the mailroom guy. But I wanted to make it official with her as soon as possible, for what it's worth. I wasn't the one doing the cheating though. Does that mean I deserve punishment? My comment: OP chose a roller coaster ride for life. There is no denial in that. There will be always people like him. But if you look at it positively, there is one less crazy woman off the market.